ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has accepted nomination seeking to be re-elected as a leader of the party. Ramaphosa's nomination will see him going head-to-head with Dr Zweli Mkhize. Joining us now is Mondli Gungubele, who is one of the campaign managers for Cyril Ramaphosa. Minister Gungubele, thank you so much for making time for us this afternoon. So 2,037 branches coming out, and this is 2,037 out of the 3,500 audited ones, nominating President Cyril Ramaphosa for president. Is this more or less than what you were expecting as a campaign?
Well, thanks Clement, thanks to your viewership. I think it's beyond our expectation, and it resonates with the survey that was presented to us during the NEC, that the president's reputation is 8% above that of the organization.
It's a comfortable lead, but I think you and I know a lot can happen between now and December as well. What are you expecting to come out of the process? Because there's a lot of horse trading that's going to happen, intense negotiations that are going to take place. And the question is, you know, after this process, will he still be leading comfortably?
Listen, this nomination sort of seemed to be an indication in the direction of him leading comfortably. But as you have already said, Clement, there are three elements that are key when you try to put together leadership in a conference. Nomination is one of them. Political perspectives or imperatives, that's a key element. Three, the final delegates that ultimately determine what happens in a conference. The combination of those three, the minimum outcome from that combination is the one that finally determines who becomes a leader. So you are correct. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Yeah. The people that you, as the campaign, paired the president with didn't really get as many nominations from branches. Let's take Senzo Mkhunu, for instance, whom you as a campaign want to deputize President Cyril Ramaphosa. He doesn't even feature in the top 5. So what's the plan? Are you talking to Paul Mashatile or engaging other deputy presidential candidates?
Let me put it, the point is, Clement, is that nominations are not always an ultimate indication of who becomes a leader, although a number of times they led to that. So, if you look at a number of leaders who become leaders, stats will show you others came from the floor. For instance, the treasurer of the Eastern Cape came from the floor. I can list a number of people who did that. Came from the floor because, as I've said to you, nominations, political imperatives, and ultimately the delegation that come out determine who become a leader. Maybe the other thing you should understand, people might tell you that we didn't come out once off with names from the beginning because we had to engage in a number of things. That might have also created a confusion, and the reasons are sound because we didn't want just to throw names without applying our political minds. Because remember, we are lobbying the branches on these names. Ultimately, they are the ones who decide. But whatever then we propose to them is something that we must have thought about carefully, because our attitude, our ambition, this conference must produce a renewal dominant conference. In other words, an NEC that puts ANC on course towards cleansing itself, improving its acceptability in the eyes of the public.
I still want to repeat that question, though. What is the plan? And I hear what you say, that perhaps coming in later with the names of people you would like to see running alongside the president. That was late, and that may have caused some confusion. But I'm saying right now, the people that were thought were going to somehow run alongside the president are not featuring, as successfully as the president is in terms of branch nominations. So are you starting discussions with other hopefuls in the positions where they're not coming first? Or are you going to take those names back to the branches and try lobby once again so that, in case branches or delegates come in December, they can have a change of mind about who they want, for instance, to deputize Ramaphosa?
Maybe I'm not explaining myself, Clement, properly. What you are saying, nomination is one of the levers or one of the factors. Now delegates are going to come out of these nominations. We are going to engage with delegates because I'm saying there's nomination, there's political imperatives, there's a type of delegates who are here. You never conclude the state of your nomination purely on of the state of the leadership you want purely on nominations. These two other elements, the political relevance and at the same time the attitude of the delegates to the political perspective that we'll be putting to them.
Yeah.
So in other words, we have not reached a final stage where we should say those who are proposing, their names have reached a sell-by date.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm explaining this to you.
Yeah, I hear that. But wouldn't that be a problem, though, if because you don't want delegates who come with their own mandate, right? If there's a branch that has decided it's nominating Dr. Zweli Mkhize or Cyril Ramaphosa for the position of president, I imagine you don't, as the ANC, want a situation where delegates who come to represent that particular branch come and somehow, because you, as Mondli Gungubele, who campaigns for Cyril Ramaphosa, manage to change their mind about the mandate they have from their branch, and then they change their attitudes. Don't you often say in the ANC that, what's that saying, amandla asemasebeni? I'm paraphrasing there, but it means, the power is in the branches. So if the mandate is very clear from the branches, why must the attitudes change based on how you are campaigning as different campaigns for different positions?
Maybe what we need to understand, Clement, is that it is a tradition in the movement, not only in the ANC, in the entire movement, including COSATU and the Mass Democratic Movement. At branch level, whenever they take a position, most of the time they have not interacted with other branches. And then what they would always do, we are delegating you with our mandate, test our mandate against other comrades in the conference. That's the culture. And open your eyes and listen to issues that you might not have looked at. That's why sometimes you get people who have not been nominated by branches becoming a president or a chair. That's a dynamic process of the ANC. When you say power is in branches, it's not a power that is absolute. It's a critically used power, which is adaptable, which is informed by ongoing situations.
Are you expecting a mixed bag of leaders in the top six like we saw in 2017 in the interest of unity? And I think, honestly, if you look at that unity, I think you may agree that it was a sort of a false sense of unity. Is that what we may see again if you don't manage as the campaign to convince other branches to vote for the other people you have that you want to run alongside the president?
We are working hard in lobbying, Clement, to achieve outcome of leadership that is renewal dominant. So whatever mixture that is there, if it is renewal dominated, it means the ANC is on course towards cleansing itself since the 54th conference, since August 2020, when we actually translated the resolutions into implementable guidelines. So if the organization is on course, that's the kind of leadership we want. If the mixture is a mixture in favor of renewal, we'll be happy. We'll be very much stressed to have a mixture that contests between renewal and other things that are very dubious, that are dodgy, and so on.
Let's test it. When you look at the people that have come number one in terms of branch nominations for the top 6 positions, is that the kind of leadership that represents renewal? So you've got, Cyril Ramaphosa coming first. You've got Paul Mashatile coming first for deputy president. You've got Dumiseni Ntuli coming first for secretary general. Sten Mathabata for treasurer. Nomvula Mokonyane for deputy secretary general. And is that the kind of leadership, I just want us to test it, that you think as the campaign for Cyril Ramaphosa represents renewal and unity?
Listen, Clement, we are committed to renewal. We've done this in a number of times, having played that role in the NEC, adopting those resolutions. The leaders we have proposed are leaders we believe are going to take that forward. The leaders who have become the outcome of branches, it's not that we are turning a blind eye to them, but all we are saying, we want to be convinced that, remember, when we chose the leaders we chose, it's not, we didn't choose them in the absence of these leaders you speak about. So our approach is that we'll continue to engage and analyze the developments. Then at the end of the day, whatever the results are going to be, the bottom line, it must be renewal dominant.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak about specific individuals. I can tell you that we are comfortable about the names we have proposed, and we will continue with all humility, engage our branches. If something contrary comes about, we're not going to turn a blind eye to that.
Has the president's campaign submitted its financial records? The last time I spoke to the electoral committee, they said not yet, and it wasn't just the president and Dr. Zweli Mkhize's campaign, there were others as well. What's the delay, and have you submitted the records?
Listen, I'm not handling any finances, what you call, Clement. I guess if in our campaign we happen to use resources, naturally we'll have to follow that process. But for now, I've not been necessarily involved in the direct control of funds, but it has happened at times that comrades need transport and so on. And if that kind of exercise amounts to a requirement that must be met in the end, I have no doubt comrades are going to ensure that we meet that.
Mm-hmm. Have you decided as a campaign on how you're going to be handling the outcome of that independent panel coming out of Parliament? If it comes and says the president has a prima facie case here on impeachment, how are you going to handle that? You've said in the past that the president will do the appropriate thing if that independent panel says there is a prima facie case. Is that appropriate thing stepping aside?
The ANC, Clement, has adopted particular principles to ensure the expression of the 54th resolutions. And ANC has actually adopted these principles in the following manner. That if you having appeared before the Integrity Commission, the Integrity Commission is of the view that your situation requires that you actually help the reputation of the organization by standing aside, or you are criminally charged, then you step aside, or you are found guilty and you stand down. We have decided that we prefer that anything that fits those principles, the president is no exception.
In other words, if this independent panel comes and says there's a prima facie case of impeachment, the president may not step aside because that doesn't speak to the resolution of the ANC, which requires that you have to be criminally charged.
No. Remember, it's not only when you are criminally charged. I've said three. I've said the first one, if your situation when analyzed is of such a nature that it fits principle number one on the basis of what the Integrity Commission is going to say, you will step aside. It's not always that you must be charged by the court. So there are people who have to step aside, to step aside purely because of that. And it's clear in the resolution. The resolution has actually articulated that there are instances where you don't have to wait for the court. Because our organization has allowed itself to be so divided, we have adopted principles that will ensure that whenever comrades are confronted with this, there's consistency in the application of that exercise.
All right. Mondli Gungubele, the minister in the presidency, but speaking to us now as one of the campaign managers for President Cyril Ramaphosa. Thank you so much for making time for us on Newsfeed.